Good morning. It's Wednesday, July 6th. This is Mark from MLB DFS Weather.com here checking in with you. You can find all my stuff today at Daily Fantasy Cafe. That is this address right there. This is the forum post, Daily Fantasy Cafe in the forums, and Twitter, DF Cafe for updates. First and foremost, we have this in the meteorological business. This is an MCC, a mesoscale convective complex. Basically, it's a loose association of thunderstorms on the front edge of it, and we can see the thunderstorms stretch basically all the way from Missouri to Ohio, and behind it, a steady, at times heavy rain. This is common across the plains in the Midwest in the summertime, and it forms at night and is fueled by a low-level jet, a moist push of warm, humid air that comes from the south. And this is the first one of the year, really. And to go off topic a little bit, farmers love these things. This is where a lot of the range for all the farmers that are in the Midwest with corn and soybeans and stuff like that, they look forward to this rain, and they're certainly getting it today. However, there could be 4 impacts from this thing today, and that's going to be in Cleveland, 2 games in Chicago, 1 in the afternoon and 1 in the evening, and the game in St. Louis, which is in the evening as well. Now, meteorologists don't necessarily like MCCs too well because, A, they're very difficult to predict when they're going to form, where they're going to be, where they're going to head, and last but not least, what happens when they decay. One thing we know about them is they form at night, they decay or die during the morning as the sun comes up, and you can see the further east as it's going into Ohio, the weaker it's becoming, and that's where the sun has already risen. Well, it's up a lot of where, but it's been up there longest. So the game in Cleveland is an early afternoon game. At first, you worry about something called outflow boundaries from this, that you have a lot of air moving, and that causes more thunderstorms to form out ahead of it. Because this thing is weakening so quickly as it heads east, and just an hour ago, this eastern edge was much more impressive. I'm much less worried about the Cleveland game this afternoon than I was earlier. We still have some issues to worry about in Chicago, and especially St. Louis. These things, how they behave during the day, as I said, they'll form other thunderstorms, not as impressive as this. But one thing I also know is that the short-term models are almost completely wrong when it comes to handling something like this. And even right now, in the current next 1 to 2 hours, the short-term models are way off base here. So it's kind of like forecasting, not in the blind, because you know kind of how these things behave, but with low confidence. Showers and thunderstorms will form again near Chicago and St. Louis. The question is where and how long and when, and those are answers that are really yet to be determined. So I will say the game in Cleveland looks better, more optimistic. The game in Chicago, the 2 games in Chicago, and the game in St. Louis, I have low confidence in the forecast, and I put that in the forum. But enough about those. I don't think they're postponements. There could be delays in any of those places, but I'll keep an eye on this throughout the day as we go on. Another big story is warm weather. Well, it is July 6th, after all, has invaded much of the country. We can see very high, in terms of my charts, air densities, which means that air density is actually low if you go outside, and that's because it's warm and humid. Really warm and humid in Cleveland, Philly, New York, Chicago, Washington, Boston. Those are all games. St. Louis, games where the hitting environment is good, and for pitching, it's bad. And just keep that in mind as you're looking at your lineups. I said the 3 best locations are Philly, Chicago, and Boston, because you have a combination of warm and humid weather with the wind blowing out as well. A couple places that favor the pitcher in my mind is inside the dome of Tampa Bay and San Francisco. Very chilly weather continues. That's high air density, low on my scale. That favors the pitcher. That's about it for you today. We'll keep an eye on this MCC as it continues to work its way south and east, and that will be the major story weather-wise throughout the day. Have a good one.